As a driven dentist, you see the world differently. Where some see scarcity, you see abundance. When others want to give up, you keep going. You're building an amazing life of significance. That means you can't rely on ordinary advice from ordinary advisors to get to your goals. You want advice that's going to help maximize your net worth so you can take even better care of the people you love, the causes you care about, and make your dent in the universe. But the fact is, this advice remains hidden because relatively few professionals are well versed in them, and the extremely affluent don't care to let you know about them. Join us as we pull back the curtain to reveal the often hidden advice and strategies used by today's most successful individuals and families. Welcome to Dental Wealth Nation. Here's your host, Tim McNeely.
Hello and welcome to the show, everyone. Today we are so excited to have you. And what an important topic today, right? Should you build or buy a practice, right? This is a question that's running through a lot of doctors' minds out there as you're looking at the market, you're trying to sort through your options. Do you build? Do you buy? What's the difference? How do you sort that out? And that's what today is all about for you. And by the time you finish listening to the show today, you're going to know the pluses and the minuses of building or buying a practice. You're going to have knowledge to really help guide you in the direction that's best for you. No one else. We want the direction that's best for you. But most important of all, you're going to feel confident in making even better decisions for you, for your future, and for the future of the people who you love. And when it comes to helping doctors decide whether to build or buy or even sell a practice, but that's a whole nother episode, Al Galvis is one of the best. Al Galvis is the CEO and the founder of Think Dental. And what I love about Al is he's really had the privilege and the honor of helping dentists just like you either buy, build, or, like I said, even sell a practice. Al, welcome to the show.
Oh, Tim, thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, I mean, and what an important topic, because there are options out there today, aren't there?
There are, yes, many options that are available to dentists.
So tell me a little bit about how you got started. How does someone even start helping doctors think through, do they build or buy a practice?
Yeah, great question. I first broke my teeth out of college and worked in the insurance field. And so, and then that migrated went into staffing recruiting. So I saw a different world there with working with employees and staffing needs for companies, and then moved into dental on the manufacturing side, and then also had a great stint in the dealer side and consulting and then dental practice transition side. So I've been fortunate and blessed to have a tool belt that's been very well developed over the many years.
And was there a moment in your journey to get here where you really kind of said, this is what I love doing? I really love helping doctors sort through these choices, these transition choices. Well, was there a point or a moment where you realized this is what you absolutely love doing?
Yeah, working both in medical and then of course dental, I got to learn quickly early on that the difference between the medical field is that you got a medical group. Whereas on the dental side, you've got an individual decision maker in the norm. Of course, you have those bigger dental groups that have multiple doctors or a body of people making decisions. But your average mom and pop dental shop is an individual that's running their practice. And as we know, dentists, even in schooling, they have a tremendous amount of clinical experience and they learn a lot clinically. But on the business side and operational side, it's just something that they're not really exposed to unless they're in that kind of small group of doctors who are very comfortable with starting a business and building an office and so on and so forth. So I learned early on, just like normal people, they just need help and surround themselves with people that can kind of help them maneuver through that journey, whatever that journey involves, whether it's buying or building or selling a practice.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to buying or building, what are some of the things that we should be thinking of? What are some pros and cons? Can you make the wrong decision? Like walk us through how you start even thinking about this process.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the main questions I get. There's always that block of questions, but one of the top, I say top 10 questions that I come across, whether it's a brand new doctor out of school or in school, because I do speak at some of the universities, the dental schools, or a doctor who's currently just associated somewhere who's been practicing for a number of years, and they come to me and say, Al, I don't know if I should buy a practice or should I build a practice. And we're going to table the selling question later, but and then there's really no wrong answer. If I had to say, there's the only thing that's wrong is a mindset,
Hmm.
because I think doctors get a lot of information, as they should, and they can get misinformation. And so I've had the pleasure and joy of helping doctors build from scratch, and many times, in the majority of time, become very successful. And the same goes with buying a practice, right? And so I think one of the questions, one of the frustrations doctors have when they're looking for that practice that they want to buy is not finding that right fit for themselves. Whether it's the style of dentistry, whether it's the philosophy of that office, whether it's the location, design, layout, you name it. And so they get frustrated with not finding that right match, and so they tend to then know that they can build something, and then they just want to have a sit down and talk about what is involved in that, Al, what is involved in building. And so I give them the roadmap of what that looks like on both sides.
Hmm.
It can be successful in either direction.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think it's interesting. You mentioned there's really no wrong decision. There's just a wrong mindset. And so can you elaborate a little bit on the kind of mindset that a dentist really should start approaching this question with? What does the right kind of mindset look like?
um, so I think if a doctor comes to me and they said, Al, I've been in dentistry for X amount of years and I'm ready to embark on my own, and I know exactly where I want to be, what type of demographics I'm looking for, what size office, what kind of dentistry I want to do. They've even gone as far as kind of sketching out a office layout. Without question, their mindset is, I want to build from scratch because I know what I want.
Hmm.
And so that's pretty powerful. And I tell them, we're there, myself and my teams are there to help them achieve whatever goals, but we need to know what that goal is. And if they're ambiguous, if they're uncertain, if they're, of course, there's always fear, and because fear is just a lack of knowledge and information. But we need a defined goal, and and uh, and on the other side of that coin of buying a practice, the same thing is, what are they looking for? What size? What everybody wants a large, thriving practice, but the question is that what comes with that? Are they able to manage a production of a large, thriving practice? Are they well versed in managing and leading people? And maybe I should correct myself and say managing processes and leading people. And do they have that background? And so I think the mindset is, if you're clear on what you want, either avenue will work.
Hmm. Now, how often do you see doctors who are coming to you actually be really clear on what they want? Because I know that's a struggle I see sometimes. Is you may have a very general idea of what things look like, but you start diving in, and I know a lot of times when I try to dive deep on goals, my answer is actually I really don't know what I want. And so how often do you see that clarity of vision with these doctors that you're working with?
Yeah, another really good question. It's hard to put a percentage on that or a number on that, but I will tell you, the majority of the time, doctors are not clear about what they want. And so that isn't to say that there's a percentage of them that are clear about what they want. Maybe their family has helped them achieve that clarity, that roadmap, because maybe they've got family that are in dental and they've been down that path before, and maybe they've worked in those practices and kind of seen it, whether it's from the ground up or that purchase. So I think the majority of the time they're not clear on it. But I assure them, my suggestion is let's sit down and talk about what that journey looks like. And that goes back to, having a conversation, understanding their wants, their needs, their goals. And if they don't know, that's okay. We're not here to, we're not here to judge them or beat them up on that. But we want to make sure as a team that that we understand what their factors are, and what best option for them to take is going to be important for them to decide on. Yeah, I want to buy. This is what I want to do, or no, I want to build. And some doctors relish building from scratch. They love, because as you know, dentists are creative. They're creative, and they want to design something and watch it come to fruition. If they've got that case that it just, oh my gosh, it's going to take some time and energy and effort to make it a beautiful smile. They relish that. No different, from building an office from scratch or buying an office, or they can envision what it could be like, and then they, attack it from that standpoint.
Yeah. Well, I like that you talk about this as being a journey, because I mean, this isn't like going to the store and buying a pair of pants, and if you don't like them, you can just return them, right? This is a commitment, right? You're making a decision. You're deciding to move forward. And so, we've kind of been talking in generalities in terms of what those options are, and we've just been using kind of, big, broad, hey, do you build? Do you buy? But let's start diving deep on each one of those. And so when you talk about building a practice, what does that look like? Am I building the office? Am I building the space? Am I like what's building a practice look like?
Yeah. One of the first things we do is we sit down, and as I mentioned, we have that meeting to understand what do they envision. We're big on, and I'm very big on vision. Give me a vision of what you see the future to look like. And then once we have some level of clarity, and of course it can be, some gray areas, and that's fine too. Then, some of the standard questions of where do you want to practice? What size of practice? We really hit on branding. What kind of dentist do you want the community to know you as? And that's going to really play a part on, the demographics of where you want to practice. And then we narrow it down to size. How many operatories? What kind of dentistry do you want to do? And so once we have, some of those pillars, then we go shopping, right? We go find that location that makes sense for them. So location wise, area, geography, demographics, size, do they want to be in a medical building? Do they want to be in a standalone building? Do they want to be, in a retail shopping center? I mean, and so, and then from there, then we design it. We bring the right team in to help. And when I say us, we participate in that design process, but just like a dentist has to pull a team together, hygiene assistants, front office specialists, if they're a GP, you bring the team around you to help you put that structure together. And then we watch it being built, from a construction standpoint, and then, then from the equipment side and equipping it, and then launching it, cutting that red ribbon is super great to be a part of that, and tears are flowing, and but it is a journey. To your point, we make it very clear that there's no specific deadline. We want to work with some finite deadlines, but one doctor may find their office in 3 months. The other doctor may take 3 years, right? So it's not uncommon to take a little bit longer than everybody plans. But yes, that is a journey. I'm building, surrounding yourself with the right people, and that's what we pride ourselves in, because not every person or dentist is created equal. They all have different preferences. They all have different styles, and so really understanding what that roadmap looks like is really important to achieve that the final end result.
Yeah. So, right, when I'm hearing build a practice, some of the things I'm hearing is really a high level of customization in terms of kind of deciding what types of patients you want to attract, deciding, what you want your office to look like, and really being involved in the design phase. So, high level of customization. What are some other benefits of building out a practice?
Yeah, one of the key benefits is you get to do it your way. You're not inheriting a reputation. You're not inheriting a branding. You're not inheriting the staff. You're not inheriting the clinical treatments that have been done for however long that office has been open. So, you know, that could be a positive, right? It could be a positive when you are, buying a practice, but when you're building from scratch, the slate is clean.
Mm.
It is a white canvas, and a lot of dentists like that. They like to be able to have their fingerprint. There is only they launched this, they built this the way they wanted to build it. As I mentioned, and as we know, dentists are creative. And I've had the privilege of working with some dentists who have just an immense amount of creativity. They thought outside of the box on design. They thought outside the box of floor plans. They thought outside the box of decor. Um, so that's real. That's inspiring when that dentist can really take their creative juices
Hmm.
and put it on paper, watch it come to fruition. um, you know, we see a lot of joy when that happens in these dentists.
Okay. So those are some of the things we can put in the pro column, right? If we're doing our little chart, pros and cons, we can put those in the pros. What are some of the things we want to put in the con column if we're looking at building a practice from scratch?
Yeah. We'll categorize it as a con, but I don't necessarily always feel that these are cons. But one of the things that the dentist has to realize is that you are building from scratch. You're starting from nothing, right? You're going to be working and seeing families, as patients and friends, and you're going to be begging for business, right? You're going to be banging on doors, and you're starting a business from scratch, and you don't have that machine turned on like you do with buying a practice.
Hmm.
And so I think dentists understand it but don't necessarily fully embrace it when it is a bit of a ramp up time. There's really no rule of thumb. One of the, I guess you can table it as a rule of thumb is, 18 months to 2 years is maybe your target of when you may be able to get to that semblance of a break even.
Hmm.
um, I've seen dentists do it fast. They get to that break even point within a year. But they had a game plan. They were very methodical about how they were going to do things and whatnot. um, and so I wouldn't call it a con, but one of the things that dentists think is that, um, oh, I want to be in a retail shopping center because of foot traffic. Now that may happen. I'm not discounting that, but it's never as much as they really thought it would be. Because though you may be a dentist in a high traffic retail shopping center, um, you won't find a lot of patients coming in through that door on average.
Hmm.
And so
Interesting.
I think that may be a misconception. So I don't know if that's a con, but a misconception about foot traffic. Um, uh, One of the other misconceptions is, well, I want to build in this building because I know this building well. A lot of specialists I know are in this building. So from a proximity standpoint, very convenient for patients. But oh my gosh, Al, there's so many dentists in this building. There's so much competition. And so I remind them that patients don't walk up and down the hallways looking for a dentist,
Hmm.
right? They're coming to them via whether it's insurance, whether it's a referral, word of mouth, a review, and so just because you're building in a building that you think, gosh, there's a lot of dentists. Not all dentists are created equal. Not all dentists in the same vicinity are doing the same kind of dentistry. And
Yeah.
so, but there's that ramp up time. There's that additional cost. There's that, that sacrificing income wise. That's definitely a con. And so, but once they get past that ramp up time period, they look back and go, oh, gosh, I remember the day when I first started, Al, and now look at us, and I'm busy, and you know, great volume, great activity, and so I see a big smile on their face. So
Wow. Fantastic. So let's flip to the other side now. Let's talk about, what are some benefits of buying a practice as opposed to building now?
yeah, I think the standard benefit that most dentists like about buying an existing practice is that it's a machine that's already running, right? There's patient flow, there's staff in place, there's cash flow, there's business is at hand, and so that's usually a positive thing because you're walking into a machine that's already producing activity and getting the results and getting
Hmm.
your income. um, you are inheriting staff that are experienced, that know the patients, that know the environment, that for the most part, staff are educated and knowledgeable, and so you're not having to teach them how to do things. So that's usually a positive. You've got the reputation of the office, right? So if it's got a positive reputation and well respected, then you're inheriting that. So buying a practice has a lot of benefits as well. Um, from that standpoint. It also gives you a foundation to build from.
Hmm.
So maybe there is some dentistry that the practice isn't doing in house that has the opportunity to do more of, or integrate, and maybe that new doctor has a zeal and passion to do. Maybe it's implants, maybe it's a bread and butter restorative office, and that dentist never was doing implants,
Hmm.
and this new buyer has experience doing implants and wants to really capitalize on that, and so there could be some tremendous upside from buying an existing practice that maybe there's some untapped revenues in there and some untapped dentistry that could be easily realized in a short amount of time.
Okay. What would you put in the con column, right? What are some considerations there and some of the challenges with buying an existing practice?
Yeah, I mean, you've got some of the potential cons could be that office has a certain reputation. That office has a certain patient pool. I'm not saying that patients are a con, but maybe your mindset is to do much more high level cosmetic dentistry, but the demographics of that office is not high end cosmetic. It's just bread and butter, and so you're inheriting staff. Staff are people. They have emotions and they have certain behaviors, and and so you may be inheriting staff that you didn't hire. You're taking over, and we all have different styles and mannerisms and approaches, and maybe your approach is different than the previous dentist. So that could be a potential con. Um, and then change is always difficult for anybody. So when you bring a new dentist in, and you're going to integrate some different ideas, different approaches. Part of the con is it going to be well received? Not only from the staff but from the patients as well. So it's really important to really understand that that platform that you are purchasing, because you could be inheriting some challenges. There are some nuances for every practice out there. So there are
Wow.
there can be some cons, but they can be overcome, and you can achieve great results. But again, it goes back to mindset and surround yourself with the right people.
Well, and that's really what I'm hearing from you as we talk about both pros and cons is, it doesn't sound like there's anything insurmountable. It really just comes back to what's right for you. What's the path that you as a dentist want to take? And so, as you've helped these doctors think through these issues, because it is an issue you should think through. What are some common factors that really you see influence a doctor's decision one way or another?
I think whichever approach they take, um, doctors, as we all do, solicit a lot of information from different sources, right? Whether it's internet or people or whatnot, and they can get a bit confused, and it can be confusing. and then they start second guessing themselves.
Hmm.
So I think what's important is, stick to that vision of what you see yourself doing, and where and when and how. Solicit information, filter it as needed, and then make the best decision possible. So, I think sometimes there could be a lot of misinformation out there, and we have to, I remind doctors that you're all different. Even like I just spoke recently at Loma Linda. 125, fourth years there, and I got to meet all of them, and they're all different. They all have different styles and philosophies and approaches. Some don't even want to be a practice owner. They're fine with working somewhere, and that's great too. There's no wrong or right, and I remind them of that. Don't compare yourself to the your other colleagues.
Yeah.
I think dentists do that a lot too. One of the things I hear a lot of is, my buddy, my classmate, my cousin, whoever it is, and they start comparing themselves to others. And I remind them that, that's natural, of course, but not everybody has the same roadmap. Not everybody wears the same shoes and has the same experiences. So it's really important to, know who you are, and then, build something from there. I've got dentists who have been super happy building a 3-op practice, and that's all they wanted. And they've been very happy, gratified, they've been successful with that. And I have other dentists who, some of them are on their number 12th and 13th practice. And so, I caution them to make sure that they are not, they're not distracted by all the information, all the advice, just sticking with what works for them and what makes sense for them.
Yeah. No, such great advice. So you've been listening to the Dental Wealth Nation show, and we're talking with Al Galvis about building or buying a practice, and really how to sort through those choices. And if you stick around to the end, Al's going to tell you how you can get in touch with him and actually really work on creating that vision for yourself and getting really, really clear. And I'd highly recommend you stick around to the end and take advantage of that. And so, Al, as we're talking about those considerations, some of the pros and the cons, there's also a financial piece to this too, right? There finances and the way to fund the cash flow from the practice. So, when you start looking at building and buying, can you dive a little bit deeper into some of the financial implications of buying versus building? Are there financial implications?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, we'll take the approach that whether a doctor is building something from scratch or buying a practice, there's a lending component to that, right? And so, one of the first things a lender will tell them is, don't do anything crazy, stupid with your money. I've had doctors who, out of school, shortly out of school, they bought their dream car, and believe it or not, in 2 occasions I can recall, that dream car prevented them from moving forward on getting lending. It's nice to have that sports car, but that $1,500 a month payment really hurt them. So, but there's always going to be a lending component. So make sure that the standard, keep things clean, keep things simple, build liquidity is a big thing. Lenders are going to want you to have liquidity. So whether you're buying or building, and have a business plan. Lenders like those dentists who've put together a business plan on paper, and then for you to be able to verbalize that. And then from there, then the game plan is what direction makes sense. And so, making sure that they, have a clear vision of what that looks like. And then on the building side, that building component has increased cost-wise, for obvious reasons with COVID and material costs and personnel costs, right? It's more expensive to build now than it was 5 years ago. And so there really isn't a rule of thumb of what it costs to build, but it all depends on what you want to build. So we go back to that branding. What kind of brand do you want to have as a dentist in the community? Are you going to be doing more clinic style? Are you going to be doing more bread and butter? Or are you going to be doing high-end cosmetic? And so that kind of gauges as to what you're going to build, right? And that has to be synonymous with that branding. So you don't want to build this, amazing office with the most technology and best cosmetic and aesthetics, but the demographics are not matched to that. Those patients are going to be reluctant to come in, right? Beautiful office, but doesn't always mean that it's a match for the demographics of that area.
Wow.
And so, and then plan accordingly. Some of the standard offices that that we kind of target is 4 to 6 operatories, 17 to 2,200 square feet. And then of course you got to plan accordingly as to where that's located. What is that lease payment? And so the cost of building, the cost of equipping. If you build this, at a doctor build a 3,000 square foot facility, I think we had 11 or 12 ops, the most activity that justified it was about 5 or 6 ops after about 3 or 4 years. So they had overbuilt, and we cautioned them on doing that, but they were set on that, and that's okay. It's not a failure. It's just, how are you going to manage that? What is that lease payment? Working capital, you mentioned that. If you're building from scratch, you're going to have some working capital from the lender, and how much is that, and how is that going to, keep you afloat of that? I can't speak for the lenders, but I do know traditionally that they want that newer doctor, if they've been associating somewhere and don't have other offices, but they want them to still work at the other practice until that volume of patient flow comes in and justifies them, working less at the other office where they're an employee and working more at their office. And so that pendulum shifts over time. Buying a practice, same scenario. You're buying based upon that cash flow, that net worth of that practice, and you want to make sure that practice is justifiably what you're paying for it. And so you want to make sure you do the proper due diligence and bring the right folks around you to ascertain what that value is. And so the benefit there is that you're walking into a machine that's producing cash flow for you. And you want to make sure that you anticipate some reduction of the patient pool, right? You're going to lose some patients, right? For whatever reason, you're not the same, Dr. McNeely and Dr. Galvis. Dr. McNeely's been here for 20 plus years, and Dr. Galvis comes in and he's a new guy. Some of those patients may not show up anymore. And so there's going to be maybe some adjustments, some attrition there. That's inevitable, but you want to mitigate that as much as possible. So, but plan for it. And if you're going to incorporate more clinical treatments that wasn't done before, well, that may necessitate having more, technology and solutions to be brought into the practice, like a laser or a CBCT or something along those lines. So what is going to be the outflow of expenses to help you achieve your goals of integrating more clinical dentistry in the practice? So those are things that you really want to sit down and strategize with somebody like myself or consultant or whatnot. So
no, great advice. And we've got comments coming in. Our friend Kayvon from the Doc Sites, who I know and who helps doctors, whether they're building or buying, grow their practice. He says great questions to ask. And so Kayvon, appreciate that very much. And then we've got Renee saying great tips. And so she's really enjoying everything that's coming in. And so if you've got questions for Al, you can let us know in the comments. Just go ahead, type those in the comments. He's here and we will get to your questions live, because we want to serve you and get you those answers and help you think through the issue. So if you've got something pressing on your mind, jump on in. That's what we're here for. And so Al, as we kind of continue along, what are some common misconceptions that you see doctors have when it comes to building or buying? Do you see some things that they come in and just expectations that are unrealistic, or common misconceptions that are worth addressing?
Yeah, I mean, I touched on a couple of them when it comes to building, where foot traffic. We hear a lot of that. And again, I'm not saying that it's an absolute misconception, but I think on the norm, it can be something that is a bit misleading. There's nothing wrong with being in a high visible traffic zone, and you can have somebody stand on the street corner with a sign and saying dentist, in the direction. You see that out there where they're throwing a tooth around in the air, which is enjoyable to watch and entertaining. But it doesn't equate the majority of the time. You're not having patients or customers or potential patients come by and go, "Oh, Dr. McNeely has a practice here. Oh, let me go in." So it can happen, but it's usually not the case. And plus, if you're going to be one misconception as well, I'm going to get great foot traffic in the retail shopping center. Keep in mind that on the norm, and of course, there's always different scenarios, but on the norm, a retail shopping center is going to be more expensive than a medical building. When I say more expensive, I'm talking about the lease rate, because you pay a premium to be in a retail shopping center. And so that could be one, but again, do your research, do a demographic study, so that's really important. I think dentists may think, oh, if I build from scratch, everybody's going to be banging on my door. Family, friends, they're going to come to me because I'm a great dentist. And again, I'm not discounting their clinical expertise, experience, but just know that ramp up time is a little bit longer than you probably planned for. And make sure you have a sound marketing plan in place, and run that by experts. I'm a big fan of coaches, consultants. I know a lot of dentists out there at times go, "Oh, I've had one, it didn't work out great," and that's a different topic for another time. But without question, we all need coaches. We all need mentors. Whether you are a savvy veteran or a sports athlete that's at the top of their game, you still need coaches. And so I think one of the misconceptions is they don't surround themselves with the right people. And so get that sound advice. As I tell dentists, find people who are going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And too many times they'll have people kind of coach them through things that maybe wasn't the best approach.
Yeah.
Buying a practice, misconception is everything is hunky dory. I'm just going to walk in and do dentistry, and everything is going to take care of itself. And I've got the employees are really great, and so I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but it's not very common. None of us like change, right? No matter what it is. And so change is hard for everybody, patients, staff, the doctors involved. And so, I think what's important is to, really understand the lay of the land. Without question, I think all of us, dentists, professionals like us, Tim, we can always improve our skills, especially communication skills. And so, we can all, dentists can improve their chairside skills. They can improve their patient education skills, treatment planning, acceptance skills. That would be one misconception that I see is that, oh, I'm really good at what I do, or I can just walk in and it's going to take care of itself. And it's like, you have to invest in yourself as a leader of that practice.
Yeah.
And so I think that's probably a big one when it comes to buying a practice.
Okay. Now I know everyone's different. I know people will take different routes, but on average, what do you typically see? Is there some kind of ratio between building and buying, or are more people building, or more people buying? Is it 50-50, 70-30? Like just on average, right? Do you have a sense or a feel for what that typically looks like?
Yeah. I mean, I think, being here in Southern California, as we know, not all markets are the same, right? And so, even within a market like a Southern California market, you have so many different pockets, geographies. It tends to ebb and flow at times, where all of a sudden, we're building, and then all of a sudden we're selling and helping dentists buy. We saw a bit of that, post pandemic, if you will, where we saw more dentists going, I'm done. COVID was the straw that broke
But if
my
you were to
back.
look at kind of year over year trends, what do you think those trends would look like?
I think there's probably a larger percentage of doctors right now buying practices than building,
Okay.
and I think that's also a byproduct of the cost of building, right? And I think but it goes back to what's available inventory wise, right? So we kind of go through this ebb and flow where you know not all practices are created equal. So when not all the practices we sell are the same, right? And so so you may find at one time more practices on the market that are good practices to buy, and then all of a sudden that inventory level is a bit depleted, and then doctors who've been looking for a while have not gone, I'm just going to build. And so it does ebb and flow, but I think post COVID, I think we see a little bit more selling and
Hmm.
buying happening than we
Okay.
see building. But again, it's not absolute. I mean, some of my counterparts are going, oh my gosh, the last 10 deals that we've had, 8 of them were builds and 2 were purchases. So
Hmm.
you know
So there really is an ebb and flow. And so, you've been sharing a lot how you really do, help doctors through this process, whether it's helping them with clarity or creating that vision or thinking through the pros and the cons or assembling the team. Right. And so you've been kind of dripping through, the conversation here, how you do support doctors. But if you're to really sum up, right, how does Think Dental and how does Al, right, how do you really help doctors and how do you support them through this process?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really getting clarity from them as to what their goals are. And going through a discovery with them is really important. I can't stress that enough. Because we and I have a vested interest in watching them succeed indefinitely until they retire or go off on to their next chapter of their life. So really discovery, really getting clarity from them as to what makes sense for them, and I'm really big on that. I'm big on our mission statement is if you're looking to live live an incredible life and have an incredible business beyond what you can ever imagine, then we would be honored and privileged to partner with you on that journey. And it is a journey. I've been fortunate and blessed to be in dental for going on 16 years now. Made some great friends in dentistry with dentists. Watched some amazing things happen. And so, a quick little story, if I can share.
Oh, please.
I had a dentist in LA, Greater LA, and they were in a medical dental building, and primarily medical. And the main tenant in that building, a medical facility, was going to take over the first floor, and they weren't going to renew the dentist their lease, and so they're being pushed out. And this dentist, practicing for many, many years, kind of just said, well, this may be the sign of me just kind of embarking on the next chapter of retirement. And we sat down over many cups of coffee and lunches, and he wasn't ready to retire. He thought he was, because he was like, well, maybe this is a sign. And I said, well, it could be. And so it went from, hey, I just want to build 800 square feet out, just have 2 or 3 offices, want to finish out dentistry this way. And I said, well, let's kind of table that for a second. You still have some passion in there, right? And he's like, I do, I really do. And I said, so you're not ready to hang them up, right? You're not ready to hang up your handpiece. He's like, I'm not. I said, okay. And so we found a 2,200 square foot space, and he was nervous. And you fast forward that, and he's recently expanded to a surgical suite of about 500 square feet, and he's got almost 2,800 square feet, well into the $2 million range. He had never seen that volume of business in decades, and he's got the sparkle in his eye, and he's loving it. So there are some great stories. The majority of them are great stories out there. Of course, there's always some challenges too, but yeah. And so I like those stories, Tim, because there's a lot of them that we just don't hear about.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, and I love that you keep bringing up vision and clarity, because one of the things I get asked all the time is, how do you find good quality professionals? How do you find the right advisors to work with? And in my book, Dental Wealth Nation, we actually lay out that process. It's 7 steps you can use. But in one of the chapters, we talk about the importance of clarity and vision, because if you don't know where you're going, you're going to end up there, right? You're going to end up who knows where. And so vision, clarity, really getting that profile of what's important to you. I love that you're talking about that. And that to me is always one of the signs that you're working with a high quality, high caliber professional. And so, Al, as you kind of look back on all the dentists that you've been able to assist through the years, right? What is that particular piece of advice or insight? And I think I know what you're going to say, and that's okay. But what's that insight you really wish every doctor would take to heart when they're making this decision?
yeah. Well, first off, congratulations, Tim. On your book, and you have a heart for dentistry, and it's so I truly I'm proud to not only be a colleague of yours but a friend. And so surrounding yourself with great people like you, Tim, is so important for dentists. And we can't do this journey alone. And I stress that with dentists. You cannot. I think they fall into a trap, and we all do. We're all that way, where we think we got to do this alone. And so, quite frankly, I think some dentists are better at it, of accepting, for lack of a better term, help. But I think those dentists who are more transparent, who are more real, who raise their hand and say, "Hey, I need help," get a lot more gratification out of their dentistry, out of their life. And so, I think we all need help, and dentists are no different. We just surrounding yourself with the right people. And so what we try to do is, what I try to do is, when I find out what those needs are, what those goals are, is bring them to the table. I tell dentists, I'm like a general practitioner, right? There are specialists. I'm not a wealth advisor. Talk to Tim McNeely, on wealth advisement, or if it's legal, or if it's accounting, or whatever it is, right? And so, I think dentists think that they've got to do it on their own, that their name's on the door, and they have to make all the decisions, and they do. I mean, the responsibility and accountability is on them. But good leaders just ask for help. Good leaders are helping, are working on developing themselves, right? And then good leaders also develop the people around them, their staff. And so I use with dentists, because I do some coaching. I use the word PIT, as a leader. PIT's, the acronym there is: leaders protect, leaders inspire, and leaders teach. And so, and that's not something I came up with. I'm not that unique, but we just pass on what we've learned and what we've been coached on. And so, that dentist is that protector of that office, of their staff and of their patients. And they're there to inspire their teams, and they're there to teach them how to take care of their patients and make decisions and whatnot. Well, they can't do it alone. They need to be taught that. We all do. And I have a coach. I pay a coach that coaches me. And so I really encourage dentists to surround themselves with people that can help them maneuver through that journey.
Oh, I love that. Such good stuff, Al. And so if a doctor wants to reach out and get in touch with you, and what can we do? How can you serve them and help them kind of think through this? Well, what are you willing to do for our audience here?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, they can easily go to, thinkdental.net. That's our website. And it's a landing page. We're in the process of revamping that. So we're working with some marketing companies to design some videos and some content. And so that's an ebb and flow too. We're all having to grow and change. And so landing page there. I'll share my cell phone number. That's my direct cell phone number for any doctors that want to reach out to me directly. That number is 818 area code 298-9770. What I'm willing to offer is, because I'm on the show, and for you, Tim, and your audience, is I have no problem doing a 30-minute free consultation to understand what their goals are and fears are, and to talk through them and come up with a game plan that makes sense for them, and no charge there for them as well. So and then stay tuned with more on that website, and we're gonna have more content and more links and so on and so forth, because there's a need for information. There's a lot of information out there, as we know, a lot of content, but there's nothing like having somebody who's experienced and helping dentists maneuver through these channels that are new to them, but not new to myself and my team. And we'd love to be able to guide them through that journey.
What a generous offer. Thank you so much, Alan. But before we sign off here, any closing thoughts for everyone listening today?
Yeah. Without question, I see, from COVID and from the pandemic, it's been an ever changing, economy, world. But dental is dental. People still need dental care. People still need good dentists out there helping them get through, their health. And I try to remind dentists that you have the great opportunity to positively impact people with their care. And what an honor and privilege. And I think the craziness of the world and all the other stuff we won't talk about, in news and media and whatnot. Dental is an amazing field. I am honored and privileged to be a part of it, and I have a lot of joy. I wake up in the morning, I'm excited about it, and I don't even get to practice dentistry. So I think dentists have an amazing opportunity to really impact people positively, and myself and Think Dental, and I know you, Tim. We just be honored to be able to be a partner with them on that journey in whatever way we can help them and their patients and their staff.
Yeah, no, I love your heart. I love the fact you're focused on service, and dentistry to me is the greatest industry in the world. So it's a pleasure to be a part of it. Al, thank you for sharing so generously. Thank you for helping everyone think through these important issues. If you got questions, reach out to Al. Getting clear is one of the most important things you can do. So until next time, stay tuned, and we'll see you again here on Dental Wealth Nation. Thanks, Al.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Dennis.
You've been listening to Dental Wealth Nation. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. Join us next time as we pull back the curtain to reveal the often hidden advice and strategies used by today's most successful individuals and families, and help maximize your net worth so you can take even better care of the people you love. Till next time, make sure to hit the website at dentalwealthnation.com.